welcome to another FACEHAMMER show.
Hello.
Thanks for tuning in. We're going to be covering another White Dwarf update, and this time it's on the Underdogs, the Beasts of Chaos. Now, we'll preface this with, we're not exactly experts on the goats, so we might say stuff or get stuff wrong, hopefully not, because we get excited and start talking about opportunities, and sometimes there's an FAQ we're not aware of and stuff like that, so just bear that in mind. And if we do anything like that, put it in the comments.
Yeah, let us know.
And, you know, we'll just make sure that that's available for people. So, you know, we do know our stuff about Warhammer, but not every faction, because there's so many that it's kind of impossible to be.
This, I mean, and not only that, but this one, like, this isn't a softly change to the power level of an army, is it? Like,
this is a bit of a blunt force trauma.
Yeah, I mean, they've never, I was going to say, it's been a long time since they've had their day in the sun, but it's been like a decade since they've been all right. So they would do some love.
Yeah. So White Dwarf, so again, Games Workshop sent me these, so thank you very much. That's why it's got the
send me one as well if you like, guys.
Cover. And it's issue 473, and this has got the Beast of Chaos update. One of the cool things actually is you actually get a War Scroll card in it for the Herdstone.
Oh, cool! You can cut out,
which is perforated, so you can pop it out.
Oh, nice.
Well, actually, no, you need to cut it out.
Makes me think of being a kiddie.
Which is cool. It says contains one toy item, which are the cards. So, but that's cool. Brilliant. Like, you actually get a War Scroll card. So if you had the cards, you could just replace it. So you're not, you know.
That's nice. That's a nice way to not invalidate a purchase. I think and it gives you a reason to buy the magazine.
The army book, on the other hand, no, I'm kidding. You can cut and paste them out and glue them in, I suppose. It'd be like the old days when people used to cut the FAQs out and stick them over the book.
With their books looking like a scrapbook.
There was a guy who made the stickers in a roll for the book, and you bought the roll of stickers and you just stick them over, like the old Panini sticker album type thing. Anyway, we'll digress. So we thought we'd cover the White Dwarf update. It's kind of a big news for Beast players.
I mean, should we roughly, for people who aren't Beast players, put their current/previous power levels and state as an army in perspective? It's not only Beast players that are going to watch this. So what you got with Beastmen was a massive amount of crap, essentially. Like, if you remember the army at FACEHAMMER, Russ, the huge,
we gave him extra points as well.
We gave them extra points, but it would have been huge without them. Just like ranks and ranks and ranks of goatee dudes. Yeah, you got a lot of stuff, but it didn't do particularly much apart from have an all right wounds per point by characteristic and fairly okay speed. So they did need some help, definitely. What tier were they in? Like C-?
Whatever the bottom one was. G. Like, yeah, they're right at the bottom, along with probably even the lowest of the low.
Glooms,
like round Gloom Spite and stuff like that. So they weren't a Nighthaunt. Those are the three really that are struggling to make any impact. So I would say, yeah, probably. I don't know what we did on our tier list. I think it was D. Yeah. But whatever the level is, they're the bottom. So really need some help.
Now, if you saw them, you would have seen them in other people's armies, not Beasts of Chaos armies.
And to be honest, they were that bad, and what they've done with the coalition rules, you don't tend to see them anyway. Like, I mean,
no, I can't. A few trailblazing, brave, and creative peeps did some very strange stuff with cockatrices and stuff like that. But like really out there, creative mental design was the only way to, particularly get competitive value out of the book.
Yeah, and they did this battle scroll update at Christmas where they adjusted some points, and that's had a fairly big impact for what I think we'll start seeing as even a top tier list coming into the scene.
Yeah, I think
whether
so.
Or not
there's a lot of options in there.
Yeah, and whether or not people have time to do it, or can actually get the models, which is another issue, right? Then I've got to search for this. It's in the download section of the website, which is nice and hidden away. But one of the things...
This is the one that lowered the points on like was it like 5 or 6 units within
Yeah, so you
beasts?
you
Like
had an
20.
update on the points for, and I'm just trying to find it. The Cygor, the Gorgon, the Dragon Ogre, Shaggoth, the Bulgors, and the Dragon Ogres. So let me show
Some of
that.
which were fine for their points anyway. The book just wasn't good, I would say, at that
Yeah,
point,
so
prior to
like
them getting
if you look
cheaper.
at them like stat for stat, like what you actually get, they're actually pretty good. So like, you know, like
Wounds,
you take
armor save, and movement were like pretty good for what you paid.
and like, you know, a Cygor at 125 points. I mean, that's a monster.
Nearly the
You know,
cheapest
a
in the game.
Gorgon 155. I mean, that's like cheaper than a what's the Lord of Pain, or about the same cost as a Lord of Pain. So it's not really bare. Dragon Ogre Shaggoth as well, and the
Yeah,
Dragon
the
Ogre.
Shaggoth was great anyway.
Dragon Ogres at 125, and they've got 5 wounds each, 4 up save, movement 8, I think, or
And
10.
they get additional move as well.
Yeah.
In various ways. So, you know, like fast, all right, armor save, wounds per point, absolutely fine, even ignoring the other two being over average.
So if
The
you
issue was the book that they're in.
Yeah, and like if you take like just pure numbers and you say, right, a typical 2,000 point army, like when you write a list, it's probably got about 120, 100
110.
wounds to
Yeah.
150 at the max, really, 140, 30 normally. So if you think about if you spent 1,250 points on Dragon Ogres, you'd have 150 wounds with a 4+ armor save before you even added the extra 750 points.
That move real.
That
fast.
move and their combat profile ain't that bad.
Yep. No coherency if their units are 3 to worry about either. And because they're 5 wounds, there's a very big jump between 4 and 5 wound models. As far as objective scoring goes. So, you know.
And the battle line, if you take a Shaggoth, so you take Shaggoth, and they've got
a bargain anyway.
They've got their own rules if you're in that with the Shaggoths, and that there's a whole set of rules I think in there. So I might be wrong on that, but I know they've got like Thunder Lizard, Thunderscorn, whatever it is. I'm sure they've got some stuff just for them. It might be artifacts or something, I don't know, but it just seems to me like that already was like, oh, this is really good. And then obviously you've got the summoning and stuff you can do, and then Thunderscorn traits and artifacts. I think I'm not sure if the all herd and all that.
No, you don't get
there's not
a sub faction or sub race for them, but you do get bonuses for having your. I mean, they're very good battle. That's
I mean, it's like you know, for 125 points, you can't really go wrong with that. So. Just pure numbers without anything else on it, you know. Then obviously you've got like, you know, that's come down, but also this now update. So what is in the update? So like most updates, it's got very little, like it's little tweaks. So
but
the impact,
the frequency is low, but the quality is high.
So the impact of it is high, but it's not like you're reinventing the wheel, you know. So
it's quite nice because you don't have to remember an entire new way to play your army. There's just like 5 things to lay over the top which upgrade it. It's a bit like
Age of Sigmar, another layer on a layer and a layer, right?
like Wrath of the Everchosen or something like that, but you're only adding it to 1 book rather than to 70, so it's already less complex than a load of armies that are out there in chaos as is.
So we're not going to cover the open play and the Path to Glory stuff. It's not something that I play. We play match play. So anyone watching this wants to know about those, this is not the place for that before you sit through 20 minutes of video and get annoyed. Just to let you know, it's match play only. Anyone familiar to the channel will know that, but just thought I'd say that. So we have got some battle traits, which is basically just gives an extra set of monstrous rampages to Beasts of Chaos monsters. So they've got a bigger chart. I can still only do them once.
Monster specific chart as well, which is kind of
there is a general one. So you've got Primal Roar, which because this is the end of the charge phase and it's in both players' turns, right? So you don't need to be near the enemy to do this. So basically, every turn you'll just generate an extra primordial core points. So
which is your summoning if people aren't familiar with the army.
Roll a dice. On a 1, nothing happens. 2 to 5, get a point. On a 6, get 3 points. So
that's great. It's a bonus.
If you think over a game, you know, you've got 10 dice rolls basically. as long as you've got a monster alive, and that's any monster can do that.
To put this in
chaos monster.
To put this in perspective, the summoning cost of at the very top of the table would be like a Chimera or a Gorgon or 3 Tangled Skyfires for 10 primordial points. Or at the bottom, you've got like 3 Ungors, 1 Razor Gore, a Tuskor Chariot, or a single Chaos Spawn for 3. And then like around the middle, you could have 3 Dragon Ogres for 7, or you could have 5 Centaurs for 4, or stuff like that. So what you'd summon in here, it's a big table. It's quite varied, so you can pick whatever suits you. And having played the army a bit actually myself, very frequently you would really want 1 or 2 more points. So this will make a difference for sure.
Yeah. Then you've got some monster-specific ones. So you've got one for Gorgons, which basically it's a once per battle. You can improve the rend of its melee weapons by 1 until the end of the following combat phase. In addition, each time a model is slain by an attack by this model, you heal a number of wounds equal to the wounds characteristic of the slain model. So
great. So good.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's once per game, but an extra rend and the fact every time you kill something you heal
is not that pricey. You can have 2 of those on the board, not a worry.
But they're not expensive, are they? So
no.
The next one's interesting, which is from the Cygor. So there is no like cap on this. You can do this, every turn. So when you do a monstrous rampage, you pick an endless spell within 6 of the model, roll 2d6. If you beat the casting value, then the endless spell is dispelled and the model heals a number of wounds equal to 2d6.
Yeah, so it's a solid option. They're kind of anti-magic anyway. I like that that one fits with the model's rules and fluff. So yeah,
I think it's cool. And the fact that you can move and do it means you can get to spells. It's not like you have to be near at the start of the turn or anything. It's like you can actually move to the spell.
No, it's really important. You could be running towards that with a 6. Give yourself a chance if it was something that was really important on the
board. And there are some really
impactful
spells out there.
Yeah.
Particularly things like this petrification rune thing from Lumineth and your Bone Type Shrieker from I'll see up Bone Reapers and things like that. So yeah, it's pretty solid. The next one's interesting, which is on the Jabberslav. Basically pick a hero within 3 and roll the dice. On a 1, nothing happens. 2 to 5 worsen their save until the end of the next following combat phase, and on a 6 worsen it by 2. So it's just you can chuck it in alongside something else and go where you're gonna have like -1 or 2 saves.
Good. We'll touch on stuff that's to do with increasing rend or lowering saves, but there's these aren't the only instances of it that we're going to be coming up against. So this stuff really mounts up, especially considering that one of the issues in the game right now is save stacking and how much you can add saves, particularly on heroes. So yeah, pretty tasty. And that's not its attacks either. It's just something that affects a model. So you could just stand this guy next to something else, lower it save by 1 or 2, and then have something else hit it.
Yeah. And what's really good about just going back to that feast on flesh by the Gorgon is that you're not targeting them. So if you wanted to get extra rend and stuff against a Hunters of the Halfline unit, you can, because you're not stomping or you're not rampaging them. You're rampaging yourself.
Yeah,
and it's the same with the Chimera one that we're going to talk about, which is Frightful
really cool.
Savagery.
It's a nice interaction. That's like buffing yourself to kill something that's hexproof in Magic or other games. I really like that. That's cute.
So this one is good because basically you get +1 to the attacks of all its melee weapons.
It's got 4 melee weapons,
but you've got to target the same enemy unit. And I think it's even got 5. It's got a tail, claws, and 3 heads, isn't it?
3 heads. So Chimeras have always been complete glass cannons, and I like that this fits with that. Like it's always been quite hard to justify putting one in your list. If it contacts something, there's a good chance you'll do a lot of damage to it. It does more of that, but you still got to be careful on the crackback with them. Yeah, it's got 4 profiles, claws, and 3 heads.
Okay.
And then it's got a wicked breath weapon.
Yeah. Then the biggest update, the Herdstone. So this now has so I don't know about the SAP. I think it's the same as the update in the FAQ. So it's still hold within your territory 3 inches from objectives in terrain. It's impassable, so you can't move over it, which is again quite useful. Then basically you've got Entropic Lodestone. Improve the rend of melee weapons used by all friendly Beast of Chaos units on the battlefield by 1.
Aura,
It's just
battlefield.
on. And then
Yeah.
from the start of the 3rd battle round, improve the rend of all Beast of Chaos units by 2.
That's savage. Like, bearing in mind that your army, some of it will have died, but also your summoning will have kicked in at that point, so your army's not going to have shrunk as much as people who don't have access to summoning. That's a pretty scary way to leverage advantage in the late game.
Well, I mean, even straight away, you've basically just increased the rend. So, like, if you take, like, the Gorgon, he's rend 1. His monster's rampage, he's rend 2. It makes him rend 3.
Standing next to a Jabberslide for lols, effectively 4.
Or 5 if you roll a 6. And then he could even be rend 7, technically, because... And when I say rend, it means their save's down and your rend's up. So it's not rend 7, but, you know, net is... So the Gorgon doing that monstrous rampage, you know, and if you're on turn 3, you've got your rend 3 basic, like with just flat rend 3, you know.
Pretty good.
Cycles, you know, and it doesn't say melee, right?
It does say melee.
Does it? Oh, okay, that's all right.
Yeah. Otherwise, their Ungor Raiders have been nuts.
Yeah,
so good.
But even then, like, you know, like Gore's just having rend of 1 flat out, and then rend 2 later on will make a difference.
Like the melee Skyfire dudes, like them are ripening with some extra rend on them.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Besticle's up to rend 2. You know, it's all just extra rend. It's just a flat across the army. But like Dragon Ogres don't have rend on their weapons apart from on the glaive. But that would go up to rend 2. But like, you know, your Crusher, which is 3 attacks, freeze, no rend damage 2, is suddenly rend 1, rend 2 later on. So
it's such a big, like, it's one of the first things I look at units is like reach and rend. For melee profiles at least. So yeah, getting it across an entire army, pretty good. Getting it twice across an entire army from turn 3, even better.
And the Chimera's on rend 2. Or rend 1 and rend 3 on the Avian Head, it gets worse. But like that would be on rend 2, rend 1, rend 4 if it was unhurt.
Kragnos territory as far as rend goes. Pretty tasty.
You know, get an extra attack. He's got what, 9 plus 6, so like, you know, 15 attacks plus an extra 4. So he's on like 19 attacks. It's quite an awful lot of damage coming out there.
I can safely say that playing this army, you are gonna feel really torn on where you put your all-out attacks because you're going to want to be hitting reliably so much with all of these monsters.
And that's a good thing about Dragon is they get to reroll 1s to hit if there's a Shag off within 12.
Yeah, so that really helps. In addition to that, you know, I could see the argument for kind of leaning into that, but you'll care a lot about your hit rolls because your wound rolls are fairly good. And your rend is very good, so once they've got through, they're a very high quality of attacks. But yeah, you'll feel pretty bad if someone's got -1 to hit or something and you're playing beasts.
Yeah, then you've got the Locus of Savagery. So this is the range that increases, and it's 12 inches, goes 6 inches each turn, each battle round, sorry. And then if a friendly Beast of Chaos unit fails a battle, shock test half the numbers of flee, rounding down. In addition, if a friendly Beast of Chaos unit wholly within range receives rally, you get them back on a 4 instead of a 6.
Good.
I mean, getting a Dragon Ogres back on 4s, right? I mean, like, if you've got a big, even like being a Bestigor, you know, like rallying that unit, it's
completely. Well, I mean, these can come on from the board edges, so you could like pin, annoy, and harry your opponent's flanks, which is exactly how the army should work, fluff-wise. So that timing of the rules is quite nice. And then around turn 3, especially when your rend increases and you're rallying better and you're caring less about battle shock, you're going to have a pretty tanky core, given that your army doesn't have a particularly good armor save, generally speaking.
As long as you've not, I mean, like they do crumble like nobody's business, but I think the difference is now you actually can hit hard whereas before you didn't have that, and with the
There'll just be
impact
so much
of
less coming back at you. Yeah.
yeah, well, you actually like charging a chimera in before, like it didn't really have the rend. It was loads of damage, then it would die as soon as if it didn't
You
kill
just
whatever it
had to be on a
touched.
flank of a unit, or you would
And
definitely die.
yeah, and now it's like now you get the extra rend, and it's fast, so you could probably deliver it, and you get the +1 attack if you do the rampage, which isn't. There's no roll; it's automatic, so it's like you just get it. So you're suddenly then rolling more dice and doing everything and going right. And even then, you could even tag a Jabbercype in and worsen their save to impound that more. Or you could wait till later in the game. If they don't have a lot of shooting, you can be a bit more patient and then come into there later when you've got Rend 2 bonus. But it's nice that the monsters are cheap enough that spending like 500-600 points on 4 monsters doesn't feel.
You can have, I think it's like 800 for all of them or something. The Chimera is a bit more expensive, but the other three are like 150 each or something. So
yeah, they're pretty ridiculous because
700 for all of them.
Yeah, because like the Cygor's 125, the Gorgons 155. You know, like they're not exactly expensive.
No, slightly under 700, I think, for all of them, which is a pretty small portion of an army, and then they can all do their things.
Yeah, and I think like if this is right, a Chimera is 220, which is expensive, but you know, Jabbercype's 165.
Yeah, they've always been quite expensive for what you get. I would say with the Chimeras that they're still going to die when people shoot them. So you're going to have to protect it. If you've used them before, you'll have to protect it exactly the same as you would, or maybe even more because people might be prioritizing them further. So the army's not got any more resilient. It's just when it gets there, it's going to hit better, which I really like because I think it would have felt unthematic if they'd made it. I like that you can bring them back to life better, or that you know you can weather the battle shocks slightly less badly, but they still feel exactly as they should, which is like a complete rabble that's really angry when it's angry, and when it starts running away, has no discipline.
Yeah, and the fact that you can like summon stuff in, and you can like use your monsters to give you summoning, encourages you to take like. I mean, I think Gorgons and Cycles for their points are just a bargain.
Oh, they are absolutely. If people are wondering, by the way, the summoning that's based around the Herdstone is within the Allegiance ability, so that's not changed. So you can still sacrifice D3 wounds worth of models to the Herdstone to pump up your primordial points and stuff like that. So that's not changed. You've only added to the summoning potential of the army.
Yeah. So it's like you the things that matter. So doing more damage, you know, like gaining more summoning points, and having cheaper units. It's all that then get these rampages and these combos. Actually, think does a significant amount to boost the army.
Oh, a huge amount. I mean, I think the stuff that got cheaper could have stayed the same with this in mind, and I don't think it would have felt bad. So now you've got like the Black Knight thing where they were just solid but not very exciting. Then they got cheaper, and you're like, oh, that's actually a bit of a bargain. And then they got better.
The like Battle Brew double dip, right?
Always, yeah. Never one. Always all.
Just double dip that. So,
well, I mean, I'm okay with beasts getting ramped up in power levels. If there is, I'm not a huge fan of the White Dwarf updates, but if they are going to be used, then being done like this, I don't know the intent behind it specifically, or if it's like whether it's testing out anything or anything like that. But actually doing something significant for an army that needs some help, I'm willing to readdress my opinions on White Dwarf updates if this would be how they are, because I like this.
I think it's good. Like I think like they're not always going to be doing the same thing depending on the faction, right? So beasts obviously need help, so that's going to be boosting them. Whereas like the Soul Blight, it was more about the internal balance between like Legion of Blood and Legion of Night. Yeah, both of them in so that did a different job, but it still did it well. I mean, the OBR one we won't talk about, but
no,
that was a missed opportunity. But anyway, so there's also some grand strategies. So, well, one which is you complete this if no enemy units within 9 of your Herdstone and it's not been smashed to rubble by the monster's rampage. Because obviously, if the enemy smashes it, you won't get the rend anymore. So, which is thematic because you actually need to protect it, which kind of makes sense, right?
I like it. Yeah, all of it feels like the person who wrote this understands what the theme of the army is and also the needs of the army. Whether it is a bit over the top or not is yet to be found out. But Yeah, it all
I think
feels really
fundamentally,
cohesive.
if it does feel a little bit too much, then like that's okay for a while and it can get addressed later. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
if beasts suddenly jump up to an A tier army, then so what?
make stuff up.
You know, I don't know if they are there, but time will tell. I think
Absolutely.
I think it depends on the uptake because obviously it's quite a commitment to buy and paint an army. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then like, will people have this ready to go?
Do you think people will like if people were to adopt this army? I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if you got like two separate types, like the min maxing, like I'm going for spam of these units, but then also, and this is nice that it would still be viable on the table, like literally just one of each of the 4 monsters and then fill up the other 1,300 points however you like.
With 10
Dragon Ogre General. Well, Dragon Ogre General, like 2 units of Dragon Ogres, big unit of Bestigor, Bray Shaman. That's probably an army at that point. That's pretty cool. Not too many models on the table. What's there is interesting and fairly effective. Quite fun to play. Little bit of magic, bit of anti-magic, quite a lot of melee. Yeah, I like it.
Have to rush out and buy all the Dragon Ogres up before they go out of stock everywhere. Click the link below. Element game. Just saying. Yeah, so I mean, you might use that grand strategy because the units are kind of like fragile, and you want to be stopping them doing that smash to rubble anyway. It's probably a good one, like to pick as a grand strategy if you take a more balanced army, and you know, if you're taking like 10 units of battle line dragon, you should hold the line. But you know, you mean like it could be used. Then you've got some battle tactics. So in the Shadow of the Herdstone, pick an enemy unit with 9. If you destroy it, you complete it. That's a good one because that's quite a big range, and there'd probably at some point in the game there'll be an enemy unit that close that you can pick off. If you've run out of your others that are easy, then that might be one you pick.
It's solid option.
Fury of the Wild, only in your first turn. You complete the model picked to be your general and 2 or more friendly beasts because are within 3 of an enemy unit at the end of the turn. I don't think you ever use that because it's too random. For a first turn one, you'd probably just run 3 units and get a guaranteed one, right? So, and then you've got Wrath of the Warped Wilds. Pick one objective controlled by your opponent. You complete this battle tactic at the end of the turn if you control that objective and it is contested by any models in your army that was summoned with a primordial cool battle trait.
Late game, that's a brilliant option. Like, because that's when you start running out, and that's also only going to have more summoned units on the table. And you know, you're not required to summon them and then have them make a charge or something like that.
When you summon them, where do they come from the board edge?
I can
summon units set within 6 of the edge of the battlefield, 9 away.
Yeah.
So the question is really, your objective should be 6 on, and you should be able to contest the objectives because it's 11 inches to the first line, right?
Yeah.
On the battle board. So if they leave an objective unclaimed,
unguarded,
like you know they've moved off of it, or they've got like a couple guys, and you can put like 10 ungors and just cap it. Then actually, like that's actually quite a good one.
I think it's great. Like the first and last of those are like that opens up. Because there's always those turns where you feel a bit tighter.
I can see those opportunities arising in a game, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the middle one, never mind.
And there's a little bit of randomness to the Shadow, but the Wrath of the Warped Wilds, there's no randomness to that. If you've got the points already, and there's an objective that you can do it on, you can just do it and score it.
Well,
and it's
like those guys are there. I have to use a 6 for run, but then they're on it and done.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's like it doesn't mean that they have to be summoned that turn as well. So they could be summoned earlier in the game and just be on the table.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Turn 4, you're gonna have loads of options.
So you could even play for it by summoning a unit on like a flank out the way. You know, like
it's quite nice and tactical, isn't it? You could dummy something or distract attention or summon what looks like a crap unit, but it's fast. Centaur have run and charge, I believe.
I don't think they only move in 8 or something, aren't they? Quite slow.
You're not low on like.
I mean, the obvious one is enlightened, right? Because they move like 24, something stupid.
Oh, they're 16 base move.
It's like,
That'll do.
yeah, so like, and I think they're quite cheap to summon as well.
They were 7, I think,
Yeah.
or was it 10? But yeah, you got loads of options of quite fast units. So
Yeah, 16-inch move with fly if they've got the disc. So
yeah, Skyfire is a 10.
I still don't really understand why
why.
they've got a foot profile and a disc profile. It's so weird. But yeah, I mean, like, they're not awful. Like, they're not like never look at these. They might come up.
No.
So, you know. And that basically for match play, that's it. But I mean, what more do you want?
A small amount of really effective stuff. Like, all right.
Yeah, exactly. Why wouldn't you want that? And it's, yeah, well, good. So that's the update.
It is. What would you be doing if you were doing an army? And you wanted to enjoy playing your army and painting it. So if you were actually going to do it, not like if this wasn't hypothetical, what would you be doing?
Well, I have got some Dragon Eggs I painted for my Chaos Army back in 8th edition.
I remember those on Slatey bases.
Yeah, because we were doing Swedish comp and they were like a bonus point, and I wanted to paint the models because I like them. I would be doing something around some Dragon Ogres. I'd probably be looking at Gorgons and Cygors, and then just like Shamans and stuff. Like, I don't know. Like,
Lock of Vestigor or something?
How many points are they?
You need some crap to chuck into your bonfire.
Yeah, just use Ungors, don't you?
Yeah. Ungor Raider's always been a nice option.
I've not looked at it, so like Vestigor's 135. I guess you get what, 10 of them? They got 1 wound each, aren't they?
Yeah.
Gore's 75. Well, they're cheap.
Yeah. The only issue with Vestigors, which I always found, is they've got 1-inch reach with a great weapon, which feels real bad. Feels awful with them. Yeah.
I like the models, but I don't know.
Great models.
Like, I would struggle to look past. I mean, I really dislike the Bulgor models because they're anatomically so incorrect.
There's some great alternatives out there.
Yeah.
If you're not at a GW event, you've got Mias Miniatures. You have Stybor or Stibor, depending on how you mention it. They've got some proper angry cows with maces, which I actually own. Yeah. And the Doombull model itself is great as well. I've got a lot of love for that model. The great big axe.
I used to really like Morgul, Master of Skulls, because I used to play Beastman back in the day. And I really liked that idea in that. So that's kind of like where the Gravespawn come in. But I don't know. Like, I haven't looked at it, but I think for me, it would be.
What I do? What's the most stupid thing that would annoy you that would be Byronish?
I don't know. Elves?
Loads of chariots.
Yeah.
Loads and loads. Right. Let's have a look at the chariots and imagine.
That used to be an army. Like, that used to be one of the most competitive lists, was the Beastman chariot spam in 6th edition, I think it was.
You could go proper.
I think Wayne Kemp actually won an event with it back in the day.
You could go proper True Blue MSU, which is multiple small units. Like you do like MTU, multiple tiny units. If you use their chariots. I think the chariots are like 60 points or something, which is just nothing.
65.
Movement 10. Reroll charge rolls for this unit. Add 1 to the attack's characteristics of its weapons when it charged. And you can reroll hit rolls of 1 against order. But yeah, they're fast. They have an alright save. They got 6 wounds, and we all know what happens when you put four cheap units into 1 unit, and people have to allocate attacks. Stuff ends up not dying. You don't have to worry about their bravery because the units have won.
I would just take an army of Razorgors, like just Pumbagors, like the worst model ever made. Just like times 100 times.
Like 50 points of 45.
Yeah,
or something,
just have 1,100 points of them. Just like just have 20 Pumbagors.
Dear.
No.
Where is it?
For me, I wouldn't touch the chariots with a barge pole because I know they're awful models and I wouldn't want to build them.
Well, I really like the Chaos Chariots.
The plastic ones.
Yes.
Yeah, you just convert them out of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, completely.
But they're pulled by they're pulled by big beastie things. Have they got horses? I don't know.
No, they're pulled by you can have them do the
You could
gore
do the
beast
gore
chariot.
beast.
Yeah. Which looks kind of appropriate, or you could fiddle around with them and then use the gore beast as your 17 razor gores if you wanted, I guess.
You could get a razor gore and have that pull in the chariot and just green stuff it.
Yeah, any excuse to get that gorgeous model in my army.
I did mine when I did my converted ones for my Nurgle army. I did plague toads pulling them.
Yeah, nice.
Which I just green stuff like loops into the skin that were like into the harness.
Chaos, it's so forgiving, isn't it?
Yeah, and then I put like Nurgle bellies, and I got the avatars of War Corruptors, and I had them on the back as the Chaos Warrior. So it's a shame I can't use them really, because I've got like this whole mortal Nurgle army that I can't use because it's all on squares converted and it doesn't really work. So it's a bit frustrating. I still kept it. I even got the old big greater demon with the axe, but it's yeah, all non-GW stuff. So generally not like but back in the day.
I think there's quite a lot of lists in there. Like you could go Monster Mash, you could go Infantry Spam, and it's now a lot more viable than it was. Still got the issues with reach and stuff, like I said, with the Vestigore, but them in 10s or 20s is okay. And yeah, you've got allies available, haven't you, as well? So
I think I'd just be going down the Dragon Ogre route because I like the models. They're big and chunky.
Okay to build.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think they're that bad. They're sort of old kit, but they're not like really bad mold lines or anything. I don't remember them being bad to build.
Yeah.
So I mean, it might just be that they're not Blitzbarb archers, so it's fine.
A few things are.
So yeah, I don't know. Like I wouldn't go like full Dragon Ogre spam, but I would want some other stuff around it, like some Ungol Raiders and things like that. But
I think you could have really good looking mixed height, mixed variety army out of it very easily.
But having like the Shaggoth, the Gorgon, the Cygor, and like, you know, maybe like a Jabberslave or a Chimera, and then having like some Dragon Ogres, and then having some Gore and Ungor, Shaman, that kind of stuff is like, you know, some characters. It would look cool. It wouldn't be like too much of a pain to paint it, and like because it's a horde army.
Not too high either.
I just wouldn't want to paint like 200 beastmen. Like I just no. That's why I don't really like big armies like that anymore. I just don't like to.
I tend to have one large block maximum if I'm prioritizing me enjoying myself, which I am generally.
I'd rather stuff had more wounds and there was less of them. Like back in the old days, I remember the Realm of Chaos box where you had the black book and had the demons, mortals, and beasts in it, and it come with all the magic cards and stuff. Not the original Realm of Chaos, but the I think it was 5th edition, and the beastmen in there all had like 2 wounds. The Gors had 2 wounds. I think the Ungors had 1 wound, but then I've still got some of the old metal goat spearmen from that, and the old metal beastmen, and like I had a metal chariot, and I had a beast lord and stuff, and you know, like 1990s metal beastman models, which were cool. And like I know that when I was playing back in 6th ed, Dan Heaton was playing beastman pretty specifically, and I was playing Tomb King, so you know, right at the power edge there. But beastmen were actually pretty good. They could win events and stuff, so they weren't awful. They had some really interesting rules, like the units were mixed, and you had Ungors and Gors in the same unit.
Oh,
and they used to pull the Ungors in the way of missile shots. And when they fought, all the Gors went to the front, and all the Ungor went to the back. And they had spears, and the Gors had shields, and it was really cool. And like it did work really well. Didn't feel too clunky in the game either. So
good thing we've left complicated units with multiple models in behind.
Zinch wants to have a word. It's those horrors are there, just like grinning in the corner.
Yeah,
like
grinning through their bellies at me.
Yeah.
I just bashed some stuff into Scroll Builder, which is going to be there or thereabouts, correct? I presume. Shaggoth, minimum battle line of Dragon Ogres, a Chimera, and a Jabberslave. Of course, the Shaggoth's a monster, so you can't have 4 Behemoths and him. Comes to 1,135 points.
So cheap.
865 points more to spend on whatever you wanted, as long as it's not a
monster.
Behemoth. Yeah.
I would definitely want to get like the endless spells in as well, because I think they're quite cool.
The Wildfire Taurus gives you always strikes last, doesn't it?
think so. And you can, I
Yeah.
think you can stick, you
And
can
it looks
stick the
cool.
wizarding hat on the
On the dragon
shag off, right?
Yeah, nice.
So
That's quite cool. Yeah, that is nice.
mhm.
Great shaman in there. Yeah, there's like loads of different ways you could go with it. Absolutely tons.
Yeah,
I don't know the viability of the Bulgor units, but for their wounds,
hitting on
mean,
4s is the thing that made me immediately look past those.
yeah, yeah.
I just
12
looked at it
wounds,
and went
130
4s, wasn't
points.
that?
Yeah, it's like I touched on. That's going to feel bad with the army.
And I think they're more
Like,
expensive than Dragon Ogres to take 3 of them. And you're like,
wounds wise, they are more expensive than Dragon Ogres, yeah, and they are more expensive than them normally. 130 points instead of 125.
yeah, but
12
they've only got
wounds.
4 wounds each, right? Whereas Dragon Ogres
Yeah.
get 15 wounds.
For objective scoring.
4 up save
Isn't it?
on the
think
Bulgors,
so.
or 5 up?
It might be 5 up, and you have to pick a weapon option to raise it up.
Yeah, so they've got like, I think they've got a worse save, less wounds. They hit
Less
on
move.
4s, not on 3s, less move. So
Hopefully worse.
I just can't see you taking them over Dragon Ogres.
Yeah, 5 up has so much move. What they do get is they get the rule where their 6s to wounds to immortal or something like that, because they're
So
warhead, right?
So
Something
what
like that.
do you care about? Is it in addition, or is that?
I'm just gonna check.
Because if it's in addition, then it's like it's okay. But if it's instead, it's like, what's the point?
just
Because you've
not
got
as good.
rend now. So
Yeah, the quality of attacks. I mean, Dragon Ogres are better.
I mean,
You
you don't have to. It's no rocket science. Like, you know, pair of ancient weapons, 6 attacks, freeze, no rend, 1 damage, or the crushers, 3 attacks, freeze, no rend, 2 damage. But obviously with the herdstone, and then you've also got you can reroll 1s to hit if they're within 12, hold within 12 of a Dragon Ogre shag off. And they've got 4 limbs as well, which are 2 attacks, 4s. So reach of 1 on everything apart from the glaive, if you take that, but it's slightly less damage output technically.
God, the writing these lists is a joke. Absolutely.
It's like take everything you want and then have some spare points for stuff.
Absolutely insane. So I can get,
because even like a cockatrice is decent if you.
Yep, and then monster not behemoth, so you can have multiple, can't you? So right, what we've got.
I don't even think they're a monster. I just think they're a thing.
I think they're a monster.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. So that means they can do monstrous rampages, right? So you can summon with them, like do the summoning thing.
It's a wanky unit, so I'm more familiar.
You're
with
well
it
down with that.
Basically, right?
You could do the beasts of Finecast and just everything's a Finecast model.
Well,
like Cygor, fucking no, not Cygor. The cockatrice, the fucking Pumbagors. Yeah, you wouldn't have battle line, but.
So I just added to the list that we wrote, which was Chimera, Jabberslith. Obviously, you know, pick monsters to your taste. The Shaggoth, 3 units of 3 Dragon Ogres. Then I've added a Great Grey Shaman, 10 Ungor Raiders, skirmishing 3-game move, 3 Tangor Enlightened on discs, 2 Tuskor Chariots, 10 Bestigors, because why not, and a Cockatrice. How does that all fit in an army?
I mean, you're not trying to be like super honed efficient with what you're picking, but it's like it's a lot of stuff, right?
It would be and it would be fine. You know, with those rules it's got now, that would be a fine army, and that was just you know, word vomited into a spreadsheet and looks completely fine. So yeah, loads of options. Send your lists in. Show us your lists. What you're most excited about. If we missed anything that you think is going to be particularly good, like. Is the infantry list actually amazing because it's something we're not considered? Do let us know.
Yeah, and let us know where you think they fit in the power level in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that kind of algorithm stuff.
Particularly if you're a long-term player, really would be interested in your thoughts now. If you've stuck with the army for like 8 years and now is your day in the sun, let us know.
Yeah, and then you're going to get annoyed at all the people jumping on the bandwagons, dry brushing Dragon Ogres, right?
If they can
You're not a real beast player. Yeah, well, that's it. Click the link below. Anyway, so thanks for watching. We'll catch you all in the next one.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.